Hey guys, recently I had the extreme pleasure of being interviewed by the incomparable Mike DeMartin of Sci-fi More. It was a wonderful interview. I loved it. There were a couple of hiccups. Unfortunately, I had neighbors across the street. I was recording this outside on my porch, and they were totally oblivious of a guy sitting there with uh, this setup and bright blue headphones recording this. I'm going to leave it as oblivious. I'm not going to say they were rude, but they were oblivious. So there's some noise in the background. They were raking up leaves or something like that. And secondly, in the interview, I mentioned Kessel Run not once, but twice. Basically, it was in reference to our film, The Kessel Paradox, which admittedly I did take inspiration from the reference of Kessel Run to make the title of that film and the commander, Commander Kessel. Other than that, I really hope you enjoy this. Without further ado, please enjoy this.
Greetings, everyone. Mike here with Sci-Fi and More, and welcome to our Galactic Chat segment where we sit back and we sit down and talk with and feature sci-fi authors, YouTube content creators, and sci-fi filmmakers. And we happen to have the sci-fi filmmaker here for you right now. Jonathan Martin Ives is joining us here today. Jonathan, welcome to the channel.
Howdy from Colorado.
Colorado. Great deer hunting state, I hear. So you've been following my channel now for, I mean, really since the beginning, and I had learned early on about your filmmaking and how you pursue your dreams and all that. But I just got to ask right out of the gate. I mean, sci-fi seems, I guess, to the untrained eye, like it would be kind of complicated. How do you get inspired to become a sci-fi filmmaker? And what did you do to choose science fiction specifically?
Well, actually, it goes all the way back to when I was a teenager. I had an 8 millimeter camera just like Spielberg did,
Oh,
and
nice.
I screwed around with a few little short films here and there. My cousin and I, Tyrone, we went to a local park and uh, did little shorts. And for like special effects, I would take like red yarn and make that as a laser beam. I'd stop the camera, put the yarn in front of a gun, and start the camera again and make it look like it shot somebody. Stuff like that. Yeah, I was a big shot back then.
I did the same thing, except I never filmed it. And, to me, I didn't, conceive that. And, looking back on it now and talking to you and reading some articles about you, I'm like, God, man, I should have pursued that a little bit more. But
Well,
how do you develop your concepts? Because, like I said, sci-fi can be very challenging. I mean, you have to be able, I would think, to sit down and come up with an engaging story that's going to keep people interested. And then from there, you go into the development stage and try to put it all together. What's that process like for you?
well, sometimes it's as insignificant as going to a thrift store and seeing an object, whatever. Ooh, that would look cool in, dot, 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 dot. And you start developing a whole story around this or that. Sometimes you just, out of the blue, think about, oh, I remember when I was a kid, I saw a movie like this, and I would like to do something like that. You
Sounds like you saw Hardware Wars as well.
know, oh, Hardware Wars, Thumb Wars, Laser
Right?
Blast, all sorts of stuff like that. Yeah.
So now, one of the you're talking about things you just kind of find, right, and put together and piece together. I will say one of the most intriguing characters I think you've come up with through this more or less piecemeal design is Zorg. The
Yeah,
character of Zorg just looks slick. You
yeah.
know, how did Zorg come to be?
Well, Zorg came to be at Home Depot. I was looking around one day and I happened to see these flower pots, and my mind, being the twist little mind that it is, said, "Hey, what if I put two of those together and put it on my head?" And yeah, I had all these employees looking at me, really weird. And as I'm coupling these two flower pots together and taking selfies and stuff like that, so I get it home, get in my kitchen. My wife, my very understanding wife, is watching me saw all of this stuff whole in both pieces and glue it together, bolt it together, and yeah, there you go. That's the headpiece for Zorg, and the chest part is like from motorcycle riding gear, and I just put it together there.
In my previous conversations with you, before you get to Zorg, right? Before Zorg seemed to come to be, you had kind of an incredible journey to reach the soul of St. Ives. I just, I think everyone might like to hear a little bit about how you overcame some challenges to make the soul of St. Ives a reality.
Well, at the time, I was on set with a friend of mine, basically a boom mic operator for his film. And the whole atmosphere just kind of made me electric because it was like, wow, I'm actually working on a film to do this. I would love this to happen for something of mine. And so I approached him and I was like, hey, once we're done with your movie, can can you explore doing something with an idea I have? And he took me aside and, okay, harumph harumph, Jonathan, this is what I want you to do. I want you to get a script together and I want you to get it copyrighted and then I'll help you. And so, yeah, I never done a script ever in my life before, did a little research, put one together, got it copyrighted, something else I've never explored, presented
Right?
it to my mentor who lovingly said, can't help you, sorry. So yeah, I was kind of crushed, but it kind of lit a spark in me to say, you know what? I can do this myself. I've got to be able to do this myself. Somehow I will do this myself. And I explored the possibilities. There's a wonderful outlet out there for people with, no money like me. Da
Right?
Vinci,
Right?
Da Vinci Resolve. There's a free version of it, and then there's the, version you pay for. It's supposed to have more bells and whistles, all that stuff. But I
Sure.
highly encourage anyone out there who wants to explore this venue, go out there and get a copy of this software and play around with it. And it opened up a lot of doors for me. So
Very nice.
yeah, so I got a little motley crew of people together, including my wife, and we went out to this really cool place called Painted Minds out here. And that's where everything began. We basically got hunted down by park staff, which was my fault. I was wearing a Lucasfilms hat
Oh boy.
and didn't think anything of it. And I kept looking at my wife and I was like, why is this guy hassling us? And one of our actors, you know, hey, stupid, look at your hat. Oh,
Oh my god, that's funny.
yeah. So,
Well, I wanted to bring up the Soul of St. Ives for this very reason. A couple of things you said where you said, I have to get this done. I have to. You were committed to it.
yeah,
And I'm a big fan of saying that, while yes is the gold medal answer, no is the silver medal answer, because no, just like yes, gives you direction. So now you know, okay, you have a no from this guy that said he would help you. And he said, now he's like, nope, not going to do it. Now you have direction. And this is one of the things that I absolutely admire and respect, is because you took that no and you did something with it. You said, okay, you know what? I will do this myself. I am going to pursue my dream. And I think that's very commendable. And I think that's a strong message for, younger filmmakers that want to try and break out, but don't quite know what to do with a no. So I admire that quality in you. So I appreciate you sharing that story, because that's critical to the success you're getting now.
yes, it is. Well, young filmmakers or old geezers like me. I just turned 60 in January, so I
Hey
think
man,
anybody.
60 is the new 59 and a half. Don't sweat it. So let me ask you this. How in your process do you maintain a balance between, telling a sci-fi story and telling a really compelling narrative? Bring that narrative into sci-fi. How do you balance that?
Well, being a huge fan of Roger Corman and his style, he was always able to put together a really cool story, even if it just was off the wall, wacky. He always wanted to entertain his audience. And that's what I'm really looking to do. I don't have Hollywood budget. I don't have, you know, teams at my disposal, but the story comes first. The story always has to come first. And unfortunately, I think Hollywood has gotten away from a lot of that in favor of special effects and razzle dazzle. And, they seem to think that that's how to really engage an audience and keep their attention is, hey, let's put the special effects. You know, you're going to
Uh,
forget about
the
that whole thing the week after,
hmm
and people don't
yeah,
get that. Yeah.
it's the story, it's the narrative, in my opinion, that keeps people engaged. Like, I just put out a video, part two of the 1950s lesser knowns, and one of the movies I featured in there was the 27th Day. It There's literally no razzle dazzle in that movie. I mean, it's a thinker movie, and it did well, because of that. So I think, to your point, you don't need the high end effects, and because, like you said, you're going to forget about all that stuff, or you're going to forget about, what the basis of the movie is. But if you put a story together, which, in looking at your stuff, it appears like that's the goal you have in mind, is to
Yeah.
put together something compelling. So, and that's enriching. It's funny you bring up Roger Corman. Roger Corman, man, that guy's got something like 500 film credits to his name, or 500 video credits, I should say, between TV and movies, and some in collaboration with his brother Gene and all that. And you mentioned Roger Corman, a couple of times in an article in that was published in February 22nd, 2024 in Canvas Rebel about Roger Corman, which incidentally, you were talking about Zorg going on tour, your breakout character.
Yeah.
He was what was it? Zorg was invited to a festival or to appear at a festival, I believe.
Yeah, it was my very first local festival here at Colorado Short Circuit. That was my very first that was shown here locally, and it was received very well. In fact, someone from the audience screamed out "Zorg rules!" and after it was over, and so yeah, I like that little bit of input.
That's nice. It's nice that someone did that. It kind of, I would think, make you feel like, all right, I got through. I got through this. So someone liked what I did. Someone appreciated the work I put into this. Like a fan, like
Yeah.
you've got a fan. That's absolutely awesome.
Well, yeah, Roger Corman. If you study him, basically he would just stuff out there that was created out of sometimes nothing. Um, who's the guy? Cameron. Cameron worked for him on Battle Beyond the Stars and went out to McDonald's dumpster and got all of these Happy Meal containers and out of the dumpster and plastered them on the walls and spray painted them into interior sets. So basically you're taking something out of nothing and making something incredible. And I've learned a lot, and I do
Oh,
that to this day.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I had a question for you, and you've kind of answered it a little bit. Was because I know that you're not working with that massive Hollywood budget, and some of the tips and tricks that you use to implement your film on a lesser budget.
Um, as I mentioned before, a lot of found objects, a lot of going to the thrift store, a lot of going to we have a place out here called Restore where it's building materials that people donate to this, and find a whole lot of interesting things there. I've built laser rifles out of plumbing pipe and sprinkler heads and stuff like that. I'm currently working on a Doctor Who fan film where I've gotten broom handles from the dollar store and coupled them with all sorts of mishmash stuff to create these battle staffs that my characters are going to be hacking each other to death. And basically, yeah, I just also there's a lot of free media out there that aren't aware of outside Vinci. There's places like Pixabay where you can get free footage, free music, sound effects, all sorts of stuff like that that you can use for your films. And I end up using a lot of stock footage because the
Nice.
genre, and interesting enough, I had the Kessel Run play at the Peak Film Forum, and there was when it came to the Q&A part of it, one lady, she said, "I'm really thrilled that you would show sci-fi. That's not something that we see a whole lot of here." However, I noticed that you have all these really cool special effects and backgrounds, and then you cut to Palmer Park. Well, basically, yeah, you kind of have to use with what you have. That, yeah, if I have to go to this rocky region of the city to emulate a planet, then yeah, that's
what I've got. I don't have a studio, so there you go.
Right. And see, that's interesting. I was going to bring up your Kessel paradox. I saw something on Facebook about it that it was going to, be accepted at a festival or to that forum that you were just talking about. So I wanted to extend a congratulations to you on that one. I thought I read that and I was so happy for you when I read that. I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I want to take the time over internet here to thank you, especially for your participation in that film. You did such a marvelous job in that, and to this day, I get comments on who's that guy, you know, and well, let me point you to this channel right here.
Right. I never thought as big of a fan as I am of science fiction. I never thought I would be, playing. Really, it was a bit part. It was a smaller part for what I did, but I was so appreciative. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm actually going to be part of something like this that's going to be shown at film festivals. And I was like, what? But no, I mean, the thanks, believe me, the thanks, the gratitude is all on this side of the table for you. I can't thank you enough for that. But since we're talking about film festivals for a second, now since you're an independent filmmaker, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges for independent filmmakers trying to break into these festivals?
Well, as I mentioned before, money. Basically, is the paramount obstacle because of course, with Hollywood, they can just throw, see if it'll stick. I work a
Right,
regular job just like most people, and so I have to, you know, take a little bit out of each paycheck to, you know, this, put towards that, film, go thrifting, go. Sometimes I have to pay my talent. Sometimes paying talent isn't monetary. Sometimes, like for example, the film on tomorrow. Sometimes payment isn't monetary. Sometimes oh, hey, let me buy this piece of clothing. It's something that you would wear on a regular basis after the film's done. Okay, there you go. That's yours to keep.
right.
So sometimes you have to do a barter thing with, your actors, you know.
Well, I will say this: you got the merchandising perfectly correct for the Kessel paradox because I never expected to see a 1980s style metal lunchbox show up with the Kessel paradox. And I was like, God, I miss the 80s.
Yeah, yeah, I would love for that to. I will probably, now that you mentioned that, I will probably do a run of Zorg as well, just to see how that looks on
You should make Zorg into an action figure.
Lunchbox. Yeah,
You wouldn't have to worry about finding money to fill a budget anymore if you did.
yeah,
Put it up on Etsy or something.
yeah. A funny story about that. We were out at Canyon out here, and at the same time that we were shooting for Zorg, there was a country band using the space to film their little music video that they were doing. And so I wish that we had gotten pictures with these guys, but we all posed for pictures. They took pictures for themselves. Think about it, but it was so cool to have these guys. What's going on here, dude? This is the country music band.
That's awesome. Well, Jonathan, I just have one last question for you. Um, Doing what you do, what advice would you give to a younger person coming in that's wanting to make their own? sci-fi film and they're getting told no and they don't know where to begin. What advice could you give them to get them started on the right foot?
Well, I would give them the same advice that was given to me by uh, a showrunner named Alex LeMay. I used
Okay.
to follow him often, and he personally told me, Jonathan, just make something. I don't care if it's crap. Just make something. Go through the process. Make something. And that is how you will learn. That is how you will get your energy. That is what will drive you eventually. If you see something that you have created, you will eventually fall in love with the process. So don't let anyone tell you you can't. Don't let anyone dissuade you in any way. Just go for it. There are tools out there in the world that will allow you to make your dreams come true.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great message, by the way. That's a great message. It's easy to take a no and then, tuck your tail and run, but
Yeah.
that is a powerful, powerful message. Jonathan, if people wanted to check out your videos, where could they find them at?
Well, I actually have a YouTube channel and I have started posting videos to it. It's Colorado Sci-Fi Guy on YouTube. And you can see the Kessel Run, as a matter of fact. I actually did that a couple of days ago.
Nice.
And Soul of
Very
St.
nice.
Ives, yes.
Wonderful. Well, I will go ahead and I will make sure that your channel is posted in the description of the interview here today so people can find you and check out your videos.
Yes,
Do you
please
have
find me.
any Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to get the word out there. Do you have any final words, final thoughts for today, Jonathan?
Uh, well, basically, yeah, just please support independent filmmakers, especially folks like myself who are kind of Roger Corman-esque, who try to just build stories out of thin air and use what's around you. It may not look, like your latest blockbuster or whatever, but you yourself, you have shown love to the biggest era of the B movie genre,
Absolutely.
and for some people it's a guilty pleasure, for others it is a passion. And yeah, I am proud to say, yeah, I create B movies. I try to rock. I do cheese. I do camp. I try to tell a story and keep you entertained.
That's a quality right there too. I admire. You know what you are. You know what you're doing. There's no fluff about it. This it's perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you, Jonathan, for being on today. It is greatly appreciated, and we were so happy to have you on our Galactic Chat segment. Everyone, I will go ahead and post the article that I referenced, the Canvas Rebel, about Jonathan Zorg and his Roger Corman influences. If anyone would care to read it, along with Jonathan's YouTube channel down below, so you can check out his work. And if you can, support the independent filmmakers. They are the future of filmography, if you will. Everybody, thank you so much for watching today. We greatly appreciate you. Without a doubt, you guys are all the greatest sci-fi team on YouTube. Where where what, Jonathan? Where what?
Where positive
Nostalgic positivity
positivity reigns
reigns
supreme.
supreme. All right, everybody, thank you so much, and we will see you in the next one. Have a great galactic day.